Book number 1, Mini Habits by Stephen Guise. I love this book for its simplicity of forming new habits, right? Because 20s is an age where, you see a lot of people around you doing so many things, but at times we don't take care of ourselves. So this book beautifully outlines these mini habits frameworks that will help you not just form good habits, but stick with them for a very, very long period of time to ensure that you're having a more healthier, more mindful and a more happier life. Book number 2 is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Again, a great book. While Mini Habits speaks about how you can form new habits, Atomic Habits delves deep into the science of how you can cut down bad habits, how can you use various systems and hacks with our brain and with our body to ensure that you're building a lot more good habits. And it's an international bestseller, so if you're in your 20s, it's a must read. Book number 3 is Who Moved My Cheese? Again friends, so 20 is the age where there is a lot going on in your life. Sometimes you take a decision with respect to your college or your financial life or your life partner, and then we are stuck with the decision thinking, hey, I've taken this decision, I've stuck with this. And this book speaks about how can you deal with changes, right? And it has a very, very good example of two mice searching for cheeses and things like that. I'm not gonna kind of delve deep and spoilers so to say from the book, but it's a great book, especially if you're someone who's just entering 20s, you're entering your first job, there is a lot of changes happening around you, and this book will give you frameworks and a mindset to ensure that you navigate your changes in a good way. The next book, book number 4, around again adaptability, hope. So this is a pattern that you will see throughout this video, where I've grouped books to in specific categories so that you can pick up the ones that are most relevant to you. So book number 4 is Man's Search for a Meaning. I read this a couple of years back, and this is written by Viktor Frankl. Again, a book which speaks about hope, and this is written by a Holocaust survivor about the difficulties he went through, the other survivors went through, and how despite all this he chose to live with hope, and and how things are brighter on the other side of all the struggles that you're going through today. So a great book on the positive mindset and how to look for hinge on to hope to ensure that greater things are coming to your life. Now book number 5 is Psychology of Money. You are in your first job, suddenly you've been a student, you've been dependent on your parents or your guardians and everyone to ensure that you're getting money, and suddenly boom, you're 21, 22, you're suddenly starting to earn, and then you don't know what to do with that money. This book will ensure that you are handling the mental aspect of money, because when we suddenly have a lot of money in our hand, we don't know what to do about it, where to invest, what to do, what is compounding and all those things. While this book doesn't speak about the technical aspects of investing, it does speak about the importance of compounding, the importance of how the psychology of you have around money that determines a lot of your money or financial related decisions. So a great book, especially if you are someone who's just starting to handle money. Book number 6 is Just Keep Buying. Again, a great book. Again, a lot of the examples given in this book are very US focused or US related, but it just shows the power of you accumulating valuable stocks or you accumulating valuable companies in your portfolio and holding it for a very, very long time. This is something that's been recommended across a lot of financial books, like let's say the Intelligent Investor or Psychology of Money or Just Keep Buying. There are a ton of books that keep recommending this, but the problem with most of the folks in their 20s is they want to get rich quick. I was one of them, but this Just Keep Buying book teaches you the importance of you buying stocks, holding them for a good amount of time, and then reaping the returns to ensure that you live the rich life that you want to. So the next category we are going to be going to is relationships, self-reflections and things like that. So if you're enjoying, do consider subscribing to this video. Book number 7 is The Courage to Be Disliked. Again, a great book because, personally for me, my early 20s was filled with a lot of self-doubt, was filled with the fear of what others would think about me. I was, always afraid of the judgment they would pass about me and things like that. And I would always externalize what I was going through. I might be going through a barrage of emotions, but I will always say, hey, it is because of this manager, or is it because of, this relationship that I'm having, it is because of this friends group. Little do we, look inward to see, hey, what is actually causing or making me feel this way, right? And this book is a great reminder for you to think, and it's very, very simply written. It's a conversation between a teacher and a student kind of a book, and it is a great reminder for you to see that, hey, what, all I'm craving for is validation and acceptance, and you're not going to get it unless you give some love for yourself. The next book again is a more interaction based book. Book number 8, if I'm not wrong, is Tuesdays with Maury. A great a read, a very very simple read about a professor who's dying and a student who's at the peak of his career. So the beautiful thing about this book is the same things, let's say a nature, a bird, a sky, or money, how the person who has like at least 30-40 years of or 50 years of life ahead of him sees it versus how a dying professor or a dying person sees it, right? So a lot of times we don't appreciate the things around us from a magnifying glass. This, hey, it's all going to come to an end. But this book teaches you to appreciate the finer aspects of life, especially when you know that you're not going to be around forever. Amazing book. You'll probably end up reading this in a day or two. Now let's go to book number 9, which is, I categorize this in the feel-good category, so to say, which is Things You See Only When You Slow Down by Hemant Sunim. So this is a good book, especially, it's filled with a lot of quotes. It speaks about how fast-paced our life is and how you start noticing a lot of things when you suddenly start slowing down. So the structure of the book is more around, there is like around 100 to 200 words about what that chapter is going to speak about, filled with a series of quotes that this monk has tweeted on his Facebook page, posted on his Facebook page, and it's a compilation of that. So how I read this book is probably open a random page, read those books and go back, read that chapter and then come back to read these quotes. It fills me with a lot of gratitude. It just calms me down, the texture of the book and everything. I don't have it, unfortunately. I've lended it to my friend. So a good book, especially if you're feeling like, I'm all over the place. The next book is, one of my favorite books is The Boy, the Mule, the Fox and the Horse. Again, it's a conversation between these 4 creatures in the book, which, between these conversations, they've just sprinkled a lot of life lessons, very simple yet powerful lessons. They've sprinkled it all along the books. So I would highly recommend you read it. It would probably take 30 minutes to read it, but I'm sure you'll be much richer in terms of insights post those 30 minutes of reading. So the next category we are going to be seeing is managing work, and I have 2 books to recommend in that front. So one is Making of a Manager, which is written by this author called Julie, who is an ex-Meta employee, and she, though not a lot of us are going to end up being a manager in our first jobs, what I loved about this book was how does a manager think versus how does a person who's starting out or who is an individual contributor think, one. And 2, the aspect that I loved about this book was the importance on communication, right? Because a lot of times, at least in the culture that I come from, manager is seen as someone who is, has a lot of authority. You approach them from a place of obedience, whereas this book teaches you that, hey, it's okay to have your own opinions. How do you communicate them? How do you ensure that you have stakeholders who ensure that they are cheering for you and all those sort of things? And the second book is Rework by the founders of Basecamp or 37 Signals, which is a great productivity tool that I recommend you try it out, but that for another video. But this book speaks about why it doesn't have to be crazy at work. That's another book that they've written. And how can you ensure that you're working very focused? How can you ensure that you have things properly documented? How can you ensure that you're working efficiently while ensuring that you keep your sanity? What can you do to ensure that you're at your peak productivity while just working from 9 to 5 and all those sort of things? It's a great work philosophy book, as I may term it. Do pick it up. It's a very easy read, short bite-sized lessons, just like how I would like it. And then I'm sure you'll be left with a few tactics that you can straight away start implementing once you enter your first job. The next category that we are going to go is the productivity category, because friends, again, 20s is an age where suddenly you're out of school and college and you seem like you have a lot of time and suddenly you don't know what to do with it. Or there is the other spectrum of people who seem to think that, hey, I can accomplish everything under the sun, right? So that's why I highly recommend you read this book called The 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Buchanan. In fact, I recommend this is a read for anyone and everyone who's into productivity or time management, because I've seen people in 2 spectrums. One who think that, hey, I acknowledge that this is the amount of things that I want to do and I'm happy doing that. And there is this other spectrum of people who do like 100 or 200 things in a day and still feel unsatisfied. And then, there are us mere mortals in somewhere in the middle of this spectrum or that spectrum, where we keep thinking, what, some days I want to do, some days I don't want to do. So this book helps you put everything in perspective from a philosophical front, right? Irrespective of where you are in the spectrum. It will help you embrace finitude, which is, it will make you realize that, hey, I have only so much time, so I might as well dedicate it to things that give me joy, happiness, and puts the best use of my time. The next book is Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zaratsky. Again, these are people who worked on YouTube and Gmail and all those apps. So friends, this book is an amazing one because it causes or tries to weed out the root of all your distractions, right? Because personally, I'm in my early 30s now, and I still feel like a lot of times I'm just like totally distracted by all the social media, email, and all the other apps. And I can only imagine, with all the peer pressure going around, how much distracting social should be in your 20s, right? So this book will help you kind of realize, one, make you aware about all these distractions, one, and two, it gives you very, very, very practical tips around how you can go about avoiding them or dealing with them. A great book filled with a lot of actionable tips. I'm not sure if you'll be able to implement a lot of them, but you being aware that you're constantly being distracted by the social media app will ensure that at some point in your life, you're going to take that action. The next book is about personal and social interaction. Hey, why not? Because 20s is the age where you're interacting with a lot of people, you're meeting a lot of new friends, you're making new friends, you're meeting a lot of people, and you're just entering office, trying to build relationships with your colleagues. And if you're, I'm sure you will appreciate or find this book very, very useful. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And must read. So if there is one book that I would want you folks to read after this video, it would be this, because it speaks about how a lot of influence can be done just by simply being interested in the other person, right? Because at this age, we're all thinking about ourselves. What do people think about me? What is it that I have to say about this issue, or what is it that I want to do, and things like that. And this book just breaks down human emotions, human motivations to a level where it makes it stupidly easy for you to follow. So irrespective of what your motivations are, we are all social beings, and having good relationships with people around us is only going to make things easier for us from a personal and a professional front. And the next book that I have in this category is Influence, The Art of Persuasion, right? So a great book if you're someone who's especially in sales and marketing. So it speaks about what are the psychology behind why people get influenced. So there are 5 or 6 different aspects that the author outlines, and how you can use them with practical examples outlined in that book. So I would highly recommend you pick that up, because if there is one category that I recommend you folks read, it's this book, which is How to Influence People and Psychology, Influence the Psychology of Persuasion. Now, the next one, the creator journey, right? So creator journey, again, this is a category that I included in the last minute, because I'm seeing a lot of amazing folks that I'm learning from in the early 20s about creator journey, wanting to be a YouTuber or a TikToker or an Instagram influencer or a LinkedIn influencer. I'm learning a ton from them. I spoke to a few of them, and they recommended 2 books. One is Steal Like an Artist, where by Austin Kleon. Scratch that, Austin Kleon, which speaks about a lot of times we hold ourselves back thinking, I don't want to create anything new because I don't have anything original to say. Are people going to judge me if I just, let's say, interpret someone else's idea and present it as my own and things like that? But what I'm gonna, this book debunks that myth to say that, hey, there is nothing that's original. As long as you're adding your own interpretation to someone else's work and you're giving them the due credits, there is nothing wrong with you stealing, so to say, but ensure that you're doing it the right way by giving them credits and adding your own interpretation. So a great book if you're someone who's wanting to explore the new age side of the creator businesses. And the next one is Turning Pro. So what I loved about this book was, which speaks about how all of us have a shadow career. So shadow career is something that we want to do, but we aren't doing because family compulsions, we have to put food on the table and things like that. Yes, so I am a firm believer that if you're passionate about something, it's good to nurture that on the side while you are having a stable monthly income. And this book exactly speaks about that. How can you put in the reps? How can you ensure that at 70 or 80, when you're looking back at your life, you're not thinking, oh my God, okay, I wish I had started at my 20s, on my shadow career. It could be anything. It could be dancing, it could be YouTubing, it could be, let's say, travel vlogging and all those sort of things. This book just speaks about the importance of you nurturing that passion and not jumping straight into things. Now, the last category, which is how can you think better? And the first book I have here is The Art of Thinking Clearly. It's a slightly heavy book, but I recommend folks to read this because as such, human beings are decision makers with a lot of biases, right? We have biases through and through about every decision we take, and you will realize and be aware of all the biases you have once you read this book, right? Because a lot of times we take decisions because our parents tell us to, because our friends tell us to, or we are not even aware of why we take decisions, which is a scary place to be. And at 20s, you will be taking a lot of important decisions in your life, right? With respect to your career, with respect to your money, with respect to your relationships, with respect to your social circle, with respect to the city you live in, with respect to your education, anything and everything. It's good to be aware of all the biases that you have within yourself or from people around you, and take the decision that you feel most comfortable, because no decision or most decisions are irreversible. And the final book I have in this category is Think Again by Adam Grant. Again, I would recommend you read this book simply for the reason that we have been conditioned to think a certain way. At least in the Indian education system, we haven't been told what to think, we have just been told how to think. So we come with a lot of preconceived notions, we come with a lot of biases, we come with a lot of very opinionated thoughts, which you quickly realize that in the real world doesn't hold ground. So what I recommend you do is read this book to see, hey, what are the biases that I have? What are the things that I can rethink? What are the things that I can change? Because you'll be surprised that a lot of decisions you take is rooted based on some strong beliefs that you have, which you might not even be aware of how it came into your system. So I highly recommend you read this book, especially if you're someone who's taking a lot of major decisions in your life. So that concludes 20 books that we discussed. I know I stopped saying the numbers in the middle, but hey, who cares, man? So just pick up the book that you want to read, and do comment what's your favorite book. Until I see you in the next video, this is Praveen Ramesh signing off.